Hi everybody, this is the Baseball Head, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the People's Champion. Your host, and welcome back to the Baseball Head 2, and hopefully you like this video and hit that subscribe button. As you know, the Yankees, they beat the Red Sox 2-1 in the wild card series. The Red Sox are a very talented team. They're a young team. They're going to be very formidable in the years to come. And they had a very good season because they did not look like they were going to go far. I thought they were going to finish in last. So to see how well they've played, that's good for them. So they lost to the Yankees. I would mention in Game 2, Jazz Chisholm had run hard at it, from first base to start that, that rally. It might not have been a close play at first. At home play, excuse me. But be that as it may, we love talking about Michael Kay because he's so unhinged and he's really not okay. I feel like, what was the character that, what's his name used to do, Franken used to do on Saturday Night Live? He's special, he's different, and people like him. Well, not too many people like Michael Kay. Now the one thing about doing talk shows every day is you come up with like crazy stuff sometimes, and this is a very strange analogy. And I think he's been trying to sort of take a jab at your host, not knowing that he doesn't know what he's talking about. That's how I take it, because I did a video on Wednesday, and then I guess he said this on Thursday during his program. Well, thank you, Michael, Mr. Okay, Mr. Not Okay. I appreciate you watching. I know the media watches. They love my videos. They go, excellent. Most of them laugh about it. But this guy, I'm sure, bothers him. And he's still complaining about this stuff. Headline from Awful Announcing, Michael Kay jabs Mets fans with Sidney Sweeney metaphor. I don't know if you folks know about Sidney Sweeney, but there's only one description to describe her as, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? What guy had it better? The guy who got the 3 dates with Sidney Sweeney, or the one that got shot down right away? Now, that's a very strange analogy. Michael Kay is undoubtedly in full celebration mode today after the New York Yankees defeated the Red Sox to advance to the American League Divisional Series against the Toronto Blue Jays. The TV voice of the Yankees have taken delight in seeing his squad defeat its division rivals, but he has also been gloating since the playoffs started in the direction of the New York Mets fans. Now, people are breaking his balls on X, and he's got rabbit ears, so everybody bothers him. Whereas Mets fans have given Kay a lot of grief during the MLB season, especially over his comments about Juan Soto. The fact that the Yankees are in the playoffs and the Mets are not has given him plenty to crow about. Okay. Really, who cares? The only one that cares about this is Michael Not Okay. Now, your host thinks this is funny. I think all of this is funny. I think everything's funny, to be honest with you. That's the sick mind. That's the kind of person I... On Thursday's show, before the Yankees closed the door on the Red Sox, Kay was discussing how Boston fans love to razz Yankees fans whenever they beat them. But Mets fans have a particular beef with their crosstown rivals. Geez, you wonder why. He ended up launching into a mini rant against Mets fans during the Michael Kay show, which included a specific metaphor about dating actress Sidney Sweeney. Okay, let me read this. This guy is really, really strange. The Red Sox, if they beat the Yankees, they have the right to lord over them. They really do, said Kay. The thing that I don't get is that some Mets fans are just waiting, gleefully waiting to say, look, you lasted 3 more games than we did. There's no difference between not making the playoffs and losing the wild card. None. I guess that was a response to your host saying that. Believe me, at any point the Yankees lose, we're gonna drop the hammer, drop the big leg on Not Okay. So my question to you would be: if you had a chance and you asked Sidney Sweeney out on a date, and she turned you down, but then she said yes to another guy, and they went on 3 dates, and it didn't work out. What guy had it better? The guy who got the 3 dates with Sidney Sweeney, or the one that got shot down right away? Well, I got a question. A woman that looks like that's high maintenance. That's a lot of work. I would know. That's a lot of work. Beautiful blonde like that's a lot of work. He might have broken it off. You don't know the circumstances. Why are you using this as an analogy? Met fans, for the most part, what I would say, you really should pipe down about it. Oh, look, it's only 3 more games than we played. We're waiting for you in Cancun. Yeah, your ballpark for the last 3 days is Spirit Halloween, okay? While the Yankees are pouring about 50,000 people a game into their stadium for the wild card, do they want to win? Of course they do. And if they lose, the season would be a failure. But what's more of a failure? Adding one of the best players in baseball history to a team and not making the playoffs, or subtracting one of the best players in baseball history and making the playoffs? So I know the Mets fans are going to try to change the narrative. Some Mets fans say, oh, you didn't even last that much longer. It's just one series. One series is better than none. One series is better than none. You know, I mean, really, he cannot get past the fact that he basically lied about Soto during the season, that Soto wasn't happy. He was telling us, telling the audience, his audience, that Soto didn't want to sign with the Mets. He wanted to come back to the Yankees. But his family, I guess, told him not to do it. And, even if his family told him not to do it, that's his family. Now, we know that he's been with the Yankees for 35 years. He was a radio man with that jerk off. With that broadcasting laureate, John Sterling, for many years. And then he's been on the Yes Network since 2002. And he's been the primary guy on TV. Now, he also has had this ESPN show, which he couldn't beat Mike Francesa. He couldn't beat Craig Carton and Evan Roberts. And he couldn't beat Evan Roberts and the rather droll and boring, the very interesting Tiki Barber. But the thing is that we know that he got this word down from the higher ups, from the Yankee brass. Probably Randy Levine. Randy came down, has probably been complaining about the fact that Soto signed with the Mets last offseason. He's mad that Met fans were making fun of him. He's mad that the host has been doing videos on. I'm going to tell him it's not okay. I'm going to stop with the videos. I will do these videos until the Yankees lose. When the Yankees lose, I will do a video and I will spike the football. I break balls till somebody cries. That'd be great to see Not Okay cry on the air. Oh, great. He looks like a crier. Like when he's home and he cries over things. He doesn't stop complaining. This stuff about Soto started back in June. And he's still complaining about it. 4 months later. Brings it up. A better man would drop it. Which probably should be my advice to myself, to be honest with you. I should drop it. But, he's a fun character. Like I said, I did a video on him in June about this whole thing with Soto, and it just exploded. It did so well. Got so many subscribers, and people just don't like him. And he's such a grumpy guy. Really. Let me finish the rest of this article. Yankees will now get more than one series in these playoffs. McKay will have even more ammo for Mets fans next time he hears their complaints. Now they can own up against the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays had a very good season. Okay. Whether they beat the Yankees or not, that's going to be a little bit tougher series than the Red Sox. They have a veteran team. You have one player that's probably going to be leaving, so he's got a lot of, behind him, and that's Bo Bichette. They have one of the best players in the game, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He's not going anywhere. You have George Springer, who basically owns the Yankees from his days from the Astros and to this day. And he's had a big year against the Yankees this year. And he hates the Yankees, by the way. But this whole idea about Sidney Sweeney, how do you know that Sidney Sweeney was just nothing more than a big pain in the ass? Most blondes are a pain in the ass. Believe me, I know. Some blondes can be the biggest pain in the asses in your life, and you can't let them go. That's the honest truth. Yeah. And there can be any kind of reason for a woman not to want to go out with you. It could be any reason. It could be just a moment. And if they're blonde and they're attractive, like this girl is, you never know. But Michael Not Okay is quite the interesting character. I hope he continues to stick around for another 10 years. We can talk about him and his anger issues, and he should see a therapist. He's got such anger issues. He's got such a hothead. This guy. My goodness gracious me. But You let me know what you think about this video. And of course, if Michael Kay and watches the Yankees lose any series, he'll still be waiting. And he'll respond to this. He'll respond to something. Because this is how he is. This is the one thing we learned about him this year. He doesn't like anything. Everything bothers him. His co-host bothered him. He didn't like them. You let me know what you think about this video. And of course, please subscribe to Baseball Hut 2. And I'll see you later. Hi everybody, this is the Baseball Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the people's champion, your host, and welcome back to the Baseball Hut. And hopefully you like this video and hit that subscribe button. So if you don't know, please, of course, we have memberships here, and please become a member. It's a great way to support the channel. And send me super thanks. It's a great way to send the support as well. Everything helps. Every little bit helps. But we had big news. I just got home a little while ago. So I just posted this video late. Major changes to the Mets coaching staff, which is really needed. I felt for many years this I wasn't too happy about certain individuals that have been here a long time and they're gone. And well, let me get into it. Mets announced this a little while ago, or actually quite a while ago today. Pitching coach Jeremy Hefner, hitting coaches Jeremy Barnes and Eric Chavez, as well as third base coach Mike Sarbaugh, will not return in 2026. Bench coach John Gibbons has resigned. Catching coach Glenn Sherlock has announced his retirement. Assistant pitching coach Desi Drussel and bullpen coach Jose Rosado have been given permission to speak to other teams pending the selection of a new pitching coach. First base coach Antoine Richardson, strategy coach Danny Barnes, and coaching assistant Rafael Fernandez have been invited back for the 2026 season. Now, these guys could leave. They have a job. The last three guys, they have a job. Now, I would mention, talking about this, I don't take glee in seeing people lose their jobs. This is not what I want to see. I don't see anybody unemployed, but I've been sort of on Jeremy Hefner's case for many years. I was not happy with the job that he's been doing here. The last several years, this team has been leading the league in walks, leading the league and falling behind the count, leading the league in long innings for the Mets pitchers, and really shortened outings by the starters. And we've seen this, especially the last 2 years. There have been some good things here, but with the pitching, but there have been things that I've not been happy about for many years here, with him in particular. I'm a little surprised that Jeremy Barnes and Eric Chavez got let go, but this was a very inconsistent offense. When they were hot, couldn't get them out. But they, sometimes that inconsistency will get you in trouble, and got them in trouble. Mike Sarbaugh, who had a terrible year as third base coach, what's interesting is he's very close with Francisco Lindor, which I thought was interesting to let him go. And John Gibbons is gone, former 86 Met, he's gone. And Sherlock, I'm surprised that he left as well. But Hefner was the guy I was on the case of, because he is the most important. He's the most important guy that is on your staff. That's the guy, in terms of just your team. If you don't have a good pitching coach, you are going to be in a lot of trouble. A good pitching coach, he was not Mel Stottlemyre. And that's really the ultimate answer here in New York, because he was the Mets pitching coach for many years. And he was the pitching coach for many years for the Yankees. Won tons of championships as a pitching coach. He did have a lot of talent, but he was able to work with that talent. Mel Stottlemyre was one of the all-time greats as a pitching coach. And of course, he was in Seattle too for a while. But Jeremy Hefner was no Mel Stottlemyre. Sorry, he was no Mel. I thought it was interesting that the media has been protecting him for all these years, when that position is the most important position in the entire coaching staff. More important than the bench coach, more important than the hitting coach. Everybody wants to fire the hitting coach. Guy goes over 5, fire the hitting coach. Guy goes over 10, fire the hitting coach. Guys go 2 for 20, fire the hitting coach. It's just the brain dead stupidity when the fans do that. But the pitching coach is more important, and if you don't have a strong pitching coach, your pitching is going to collapse, and that's what happened here. I don't know what he was teaching them. Sometimes it's the force behind it. Maybe he didn't have conviction. I don't know. I don't know what was happening. and obviously behind the scenes, how he interacted with his pitchers. Who knows? But I'm not. And then I'm hearing things. I'm hearing some people. I saw Mike Puma suggested a couple of people. I guess the pitching coach for the Syracuse team. I would look somewhere else. Somebody with a track record. I also heard that J.P. Arcia was gonna. He's a candidate for the bench coach. I want a guy with experience here. I want a guy with experience and it's also managed. And the reason I say I want a guy that has managed is in case this Mets team gets off to a slow start next year, every Tom, Dick, and Joe Beningo, Frank Fleming assholes going to be calling for his job. So you better make sure you have a guy that's in place, that's been a successful manager somewhere, that can take over. Because if you have nobody, and this is what makes me nervous about bringing Mendoza back, we don't want to repeat 2007 going into 2008. Now, they're not doing that because from 2007 to 2008, they didn't get rid of anybody on the coaching staff, as far as I can remember. I think maybe they brought in Hoja. I don't even remember. But they made very few moves, and the only big move they made in that offseason was bringing in Johan Santana, and that was it. But the fact that they did all this work, they completely demolished the coaching staff. Tells you everything you need to know about how they're looking at things behind the scenes. When you have a historic collapse, you cannot come back with the same group. And it's good to see that they didn't do that. But then, like I said, it makes me nervous bringing the manager back, but you have to bring in somebody into that clubhouse, onto that staff that has tons of experience as a manager. A guy that's been successful. Because if you don't bring in a guy that's sitting there, at least if you need him in a pinch, you got to think forward. You can't be thinking backwards when it comes to these guys. When it comes to this situation, this is not like bringing a new manager and bringing in all these different people. Or the team had a successful year. They got the postseason. This is a serious situation when it comes to Mendoza. So it's very important that you have someone either as the bench coach, the hitting coach, or somewhere here that you can draw from that could be the manager and take over. Just keep that in mind. That's very important. Now, I know this video is supposed to be about the coaches, but the managers is very important. Who will be that guy in this clubhouse in case shit happens? Because if this team gets off to a slow start next year, all we're going to be hearing about is Mendoza, get him out of here, get rid of him, he's terrible. Okay? And you have to think about who do I want there in case there's a problem. Somebody could seamlessly take over and there wouldn't be any issues. So that's very important. That bench coach, which is probably who it would be, is probably going to be the second most important person going into the coaching staff. Obviously, the pitching coach. But to go to the pitching coach, Mets have to find somebody and get these guys to throw fucking strikes. That's the problem. That's been the problem for 5 years. I was reading a lot of stuff from people online that are Met fans that don't understand. Like they look at things in a vacuum. They just look at things in the last 2 years. Hefner was not a guy that was very good. The result wasn't there. 2 years ago, the result wasn't there. Guys walk. The Mets were walking the ballpark. 8, 9, 10 walks a game. It's just insane. And the pitching coach doesn't take the hit. Now last year he didn't take the hit because they went to the postseason, but they were still walking batters like crazy. They were walking batters like crazy in the postseason. I'm surprised they went as far as they did against the Dodgers, based on the fact that they were walking batters like crazy. They had to find somebody that can tell them, look, the most important pitch you can throw is strike one. Strike one is the most important pitch. The first out is the most important pitch, and getting out of the first inning unscathed is the most important thing. First pitch is very important. First strike's important. Simple stuff. Simple philosophical things that need to be changed here. And hopefully they'll find somebody. There's plenty of good pitching coaches out there. But again, the second most important guy in this staff is who you're going to have as bench coach. I know Evan Roberts mentioned Willie Randolph. That's not a bad idea. Because Willie could take over, be the interim manager. I'm just saying, you can't close any avenue off, or even Beltran on the staff. You can't have, and also you want to have a little pressure, with Mendoza in the background. He has to worry about that. That's not, motivation is not a bad thing. The Mets have to consider thinking about these things. Okay, especially since they kept Mendoza, you can't be without a backup. The reason that the things blew up in 2007 to 2008 and then completely fell apart is because they didn't have a backup plan, and their planning for the following seasons didn't help. 2008 into 2009, the best thing that Omar Minaya could do was bring in Francisco Rodriguez, and that was a disaster. You don't worry, bring this player in, this will help. No, there's a big problem. If your team collapses twice in a row, there's a problem with the everyday players. Because it's an everyday process. These are the same players that play every single day. They have the most effect on your team, are your everyday players. Now, this Mets team's been together since 2019, 2020, 21. And we've seen the same kind of cycle. And you knew this was going to happen if they didn't break this group up. They probably would have broken this group up last year, but they went to postseason, and they carried it to the NLCS. But we're going to monitor this, obviously, here at the Baseball Hut, and this is the first good start. I'm very pleased with this. But again, and I don't want to see anybody lose their jobs, but some of these guys had to go. Hefner was the most important piece that had to leave. Just bring somebody else in here. Sometimes when you change the voice in the room, it changes everything. It does. Well, thank you for watching this video, and of course, please subscribe to the Baseball Hut, and I'll see you later. Hi, everybody. This is the Baseball Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the people's champion. Your host, and welcome back to the Baseball Hut 2, and hopefully you like this video and hit that subscribe button. So the one thing I can say is that even though the New York Mets collapsed, the owner spends money. The owner wants to win. The organization wants to win. There's no doubt that the Mets do their best to put a good team on the field. May not always work out, but they do their best. They try to bring in the best players. They brought in the best player in last year. They won the best players at shortstop, one of the best players first in baseball. And, they do their best. That's all you can ask for if you're a team that you want to win. The Mets are going to have to do a lot of retooling, major retooling on this team. But be that as it may, there's some teams that don't even try. Okay? The Rockies don't try. And certainly the Pittsburgh Pirates don't try. And when you start hearing from anonymous sources, from Pirates players complaining about ownership, that tells you there's something going, that they know that there's a major problem. A major problem. And it doesn't seem like things are going to change anytime soon. I think they brought back the general manager. He did not get fired. Ownership was confronted by fans on opening day at that ballpark, that beautiful park in Pittsburgh, and basically the fans told the owner to his face, sell the team, and he just sort of laughed it off. He doesn't care. He makes whatever he makes, and that's all he cares about. He doesn't want to put anything extra into the team, and he has one of the best players in the game, in Paul Skeens. And he doesn't care. He won't put a very good team, competitive team, around him. And they could have won a lot more games if they had better pitching around him, better everyday players around him. They have an old Andrew McCutchen playing for them. What is this? It's rinky-dink Mickey Mouse stuff. So like I said, there's stuff coming out, and there are articles popping up about the Pirates' ownership. And Pirates players anonymously are coming out and complaining. Let me read you from Outkick. Pittsburgh Pirates players roast organization for not trying to win. Pittsburgh finished 71-91 despite having NL Cy Young favorite Paul Skeens as their ace pitcher. Now, people thought that the team was going to really start to build when they drafted him 2 years ago. But now there's talk that they're going to trade him within the next year because they don't want to pay him when he gets to free agency. They don't even want to get to arbitration. He's going to be gone before that. And that's a shame. You want to have... And Major League Baseball doesn't do anything. The only thing they've done is make sure teams don't tank. But what about teams that don't even try? The Pittsburgh Pirates are the poster child for how little some owners care about their customers. And make no mistake, fans are customers. That's right. And when I do a video on the Mets, complaining about the Mets, I should be taken seriously. And I'm not a deranged lunatic, like Frank Fleming or Joe Benigno, who's a fool. I'm very honest about the team, and I want them to win, and I'll call them out if I have to. Through organizational competence and sheer luck, the Pirates were put in a position to draft pitcher Paul Skeens, the first overall pick in the 2023 MLB draft. Skeens almost immediately became a generational superstar, winning the 2024 NL Rookie of the Year. He then repeated that season almost immediately in 25, putting himself in position to be the runaway favorite to win the NL Cy Young Award. I also will say he also started the All-Star game for the National League the last 2 years. A team and franchise that takes itself seriously would recognize that it needs help on offense, invest money in the free agent market to build around their new ace. Instead, they signed an aging Andrew McCutchen, Adam Frazier, Tommy Pham, and some relievers. That's it. That's how they showed their fans they were serious about competing. Andrew McCutchen was a great player for about 6 years. Once he cut his hair, it's like Samson losing all of his oomph. He lost it after he cut his hair. Adam Frazier was nothing but a punch and Judy hitter in the major leagues. And Tommy Pham, Tommy Pham's crazy, but Tommy Pham is a good player He's a good guy to have on your team, because he'll push, himself and everybody else around. He's a great competitive player. Predictably, it didn't work. The Pirates finished 71-91, dead last in the NL Central. Fans are once again frustrated and disappointed, blaming ownership for its disinterest. Turns out the players agree with them. The fans will complain opening day. In a post-mortem on the Pirates season from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, one unidentified player told the media outlet they know exactly what's happening. Well, people think we're underachieving. The player reportedly said to the Post-Gazette in May, "Look around here. We're playing to our potential. This is what $90 million gets you. Some of the teams we play aren't even trying to win. They're rebuilding but still have a higher payroll than us." That same player later said, "What do you think that tells us?" There you have it. Even the players know that owner, Bob Nutting, simply doesn't care about competing, and that's the real problem with the distribution of payrolls in Major League Baseball. Yes, the Dodgers make a lot of money than the Pirates, as do the Mets, Yankees, or the Cubs. But the San Diego Padres also play in a small market, and they routinely run payrolls that are twice that of the Pirates, if not more. They saw an opportunity with Fernando Tatis Jr. demonstrating that he could be a franchise icon to build around him, and so they did. Now, the Padres sell out most of their home games, ranking second in per game average attendance. I would also mention they also signed Manny Machado to a massive contract. And he's probably a future Hall of Famer. They have very good players. They have a good farm system. Always have talent. Their pipeline to Latin America is just incredible. It's not, and here's the thing, it's not just about spending money on major league players. It's also about spending money on the international level. It's also about spending money in the draft. Now, they got lucky with Skeens, because there was a lot of talk that they weren't going to draft Skeens. They were going to draft Dylan Cruz, but Skeens is a major pitcher, as you know. Pittsburgh has the pitching staff and the prospects that become a force in the division that's frequently up for grabs. Instead, they're going to keep spending $90 million, content to let Skeens waste the first few years of his career in obscurity before he signs with a team that takes itself seriously, and even his teammates know it. If you're on a team with this guy gives you a chance every day to win the game. But because this team doesn't have quality everyday players, they have no chance. They have no chance to win games. He has a losing record. He's going to win the Cy Young, but he has a losing record, I believe, this year. And that's sad. They have that kind of ownership. They have that kind of ownership that won't invest in your team and do all the things you need to do to win. And also, like I said, it's not just about money being spent on everyday players that are veteran players, that are good players. It's also about spending money well in your minor league system, spending well in the international market, bringing in the right players, and they just don't do that. They didn't even try. I mean, and the fans know this. The fans know that they don't even try. I mean, Nutty doesn't care. He has a bottom line, and he makes whatever he makes, and that's that. And I feel bad for them because they got a beautiful park, and they have a great franchise, and a great town. It's a great sports town. But I would say, they've not won in a very long time. They haven't won in 46 years, folks. They haven't won since 1979. The We Are Family, Willie Stargell, Dave Parker Pirates. I mean, that's a long time without winning. That's a long time. Any longer than 40 years, I can attest to that. That is a long time. It's a long time. And they've had good teams. They've had great players. I mean, Barry Bonds was a great player. They let him walk. They want to sign him to any kind of contract. And now you have a situation they can't keep anybody. I mean, they were quick to trade Garrett Cole to the Astros. He went on to have big years with the Astros and the Yankees. They just don't care. I mean, they have all these great players, and they just waste it. I mean, you only live once in life, and you got to put out your best foot forward. You can't be sort of being like Uncle Scrooge and just be a money miser. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Well, it's unfortunate. If you're a Pirates fan, I feel sorry for you, because you have a great pitcher there, and you have some. I can't say what they have there in terms of players. Then they traded Brian Hayes to the Reds, and he's played really well for them. He played really well for the Reds down the stretch. A lot of sort of disgruntled players there, quite frankly. Well, you let me know what you think about this video. Of course, please subscribe to Baseball Hut 2, and I'll see you later. All right, everybody, this is the Baseball Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the people's champion, your host. Welcome back to the Baseball Hut 2. And hopefully you like this video and hit that subscribe button. So something actually hilarious happened in the second game of the Padres-Cubs series in the wild card series. And it happened inside the booth. And it's sort of like, the biggest complaint that fans have about, these teams that they put together in the broadcast booth, that a lot of times they don't know what's going on in terms of saying, let's play, say the Cubs, and they don't know anything about the Mets, detail by detail, or detail about the Cubs. So it's always a big complaint that the fans have about these broadcast teams. And they don't do enough homework. But maybe they do, but they may have missed something. They're just coming in, swooping in, But this was actually pretty funny. It happened to Ben McDonald, former Major League pitcher. He pitched for the Orioles. He was number one pick, actually. Back in 87, I think. 1987, 88, something like that. But this happened during the Cubs-Padres wildcard game. I got a couple of things here. The first article is about what happened, and then he responds to it. The response is pretty funny. ESPN MLB analyst says there's zero chance he's watching Network's NHL coverage during playoff baseball. Ben McDonald was on the call for the Cubs-Padres wildcard game. This is from Fox News. ESPN MLB analyst Ben McDonald caught some flack for his reaction. The network's promotion of one of the first NHL games of the season between the Chicago Blackhawks and Florida Panthers. McDonald was on the call for the National League wildcard series between the Cubs and the San Diego Padres when the promotion appeared. I would mention that the Padres lost. Cubs beat them 2-1. Quote, "If you say so, good luck to them," McDonald said when asked if he believed the Panthers could three-peat this year. "Are you asking if I'm going to be watching?" There is zero chance I'll be watching. I'm just going to be honest with you. I will be somewhere, but there's zero chance I'll be watching. John Bucagros, who was a part of ESPN's NHL coverage, was among those who took a jab at McDonald. Quote, "Zero is also how many postseason innings Ben McDonald pitched in his MLB career," he wrote next. Why are you going to get so nasty? Hockey is not the number one sport in America. And he's American. McDonald explained himself on Thursday during an appearance on Fox Sports' Wake Up Barstool. As far as the hockey stuff goes, when that thing pops up on the screen, I'll be honest, I didn't even know ESPN had the hockey contract. He said, "I know they probably pay for them for more than $1 or $2 for it. I just didn't even know that, to be honest with you. Then when I looked at the dates, that's kind of the same time as playoff baseball. And if I got a choice between preseason or beginning of hockey season and October baseball, I'm probably leaning slightly toward playoff baseball. That's not how I took this. This is not how I took this, the way he started this. He said he wasn't going to watch it. There was nothing that was going to make him watch it. And he had to sort of clean this up because he got a little brushback. But this is not that bad. Let me read you the other article. This is from Awful Announcing, I believe. Now, please, of course, subscribe to Baseball Hut 2 and like this video. Headline from Awful Announcing. Ben McDonald addresses his viral NHL comments. I didn't even know ESPN had the hockey contract. Like I said, they don't know what's going on. They get dropped in on these series. They do the best they can in terms of covering the teams. And this is a baseball guy. Unless he's like really into hockey, he's just being honest. He'd rather than be honest. But they don't want to hear that somebody that's that doesn't watch is gonna watch. I mean, really, they didn't want that. I know that they probably paid more than $1 or $2 for it, but I just didn't even know that, to be honest. Ben McDonald's disinterest in the NHL caused quite a stir on ESPN airwaves on Wednesday. On the wildcard series matchup between the Chicago Cubs and San Diego Padres, play-by-play man Kevin Brown began to promote ESPN's upcoming coverage of the NHL's opening night. But as he leaned on McDonald for a testimony, the MLB analyst provided the exact opposite. I think he's just being honest. I don't think he has any interest in hockey. Ben, I know you've got an opinion on this. Panthers to repeat this year? What do you think? Brown asked, referring to the defending two-time Stanley Cup champions. I don't even think he knew that they won one. If you say so, I mean, good luck to him, McDonald replied. Are you asking if I'm going to be watching? Again, he didn't mean this that he was going to watch the baseball. He wasn't going to watch. Quote, no, you'll be watching, of course, because you work for ESPN, and you'll be watching, Brown responded, trying to steer his broadcast partner in the right direction. There is zero chance I'll be watching. McDonald interrupted. I'm just going to be honest with you. He's just being honest. There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of times with these broadcasts, they got to be so dishonest to the audience, McDonald's uncommon honesty certainly stood out, as it's never every day you hear an ESPN broadcaster boastfully claim that he won't be watching an ESPN program during an ad read. After making the rounds on social media, the comments elicited a reaction from one of ESPN's most prominent NHL personalities, John Bucharest. Now, I don't know who this guy is. Did he play in the NHL? Who took a dig at the former MLB pitcher over his lack of postseason appearances. He really zinged him. On Thursday, McDonald appeared on FS1's Wake Up Barstool, where he was asked about his now viral exchange. While he insisted he didn't mean any harm, he also doubled down on his disinterest in hockey. When that thing popped up on the screen, I didn't even know ESPN had the hockey contract, to be honest with you, McDonald said. I know they probably paid more than $1 or $2 for it, but I just didn't even know that, to be honest. And then when I looked at the dates and I went, well, that's kind of on the same time as playoff baseball. That's not how he meant it. And if I've got a choice between preseason or beginning of hockey season in October baseball, I'm probably leaning slightly toward playoff baseball, to be honest with you. Well, he's being honest, There's nothing wrong with that. That shouldn't surprise anybody, although such context was certainly lacking from Thursday's conversation with Brown. Rather than stating that ESPN's NHL opening night coverage would conflict with his personal preference for baseball, McDonald made it sound like he had no interest in watching hockey. He didn't. Which could very well be true, but was admittedly odd to hear during a read intended to promote the product. It's also that's something that Keith Hernandez would do. That's something Keith would do. It's also worth noting that McDonald isn't a full-time ESPN employee, so it's perhaps not surprising he wasn't in any rush to embrace being a company man. It also might explain why his clarification, if you can even call it that, came on FS1 as opposed to the worldwide leader in sports. Well, I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but this is a very funny story because the media lies, and they'll tell you something's good, or that you should watch it, and it's terrible. We know that. This is like an honest moment from somebody. Like I said, this is something that Keith Hernandez would do, where he would be very honest about what's going on. Well, you let me know what you think about this video. And of course, please subscribe to Baseball Hut 2, and I'll see you later. Alright, everybody, this is the Baseball Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the People's Champion. Your host, the Hut, and welcome back to the Baseball Hut. And of course, this is the Dark Hut, and it's gonna be a dark winter here at the Hut, a dark off season, and I'm gonna do videos, bring up on negativity, because things need to be straightened out here when we get back to spring training. And really, by the time we get to New Year's, there has to be major moves made on this team. I know that SNY's John Harper said, "Oh, a lot of people say I shouldn't make any crazy moves." Let me tell you something. The Mets have been together. This group has been together for about 6 years, and there needs to be major moves being made onto this team if they are to move forward. Sorry, that's how it is. We saw one move that was made in the last few days. Glenn Sherlock was basically retired. They maybe told him to get the hell out of here. Or maybe he just said, "I'm going to retire." Maybe they offered him something else in the organization, and maybe he said, "I'm going to retire." That's probably what happened. He'll probably go work for somebody else, go back to the Yankees or whatever. And of course, we are waiting breathlessly to see the Mets fire Jeremy Hefner. Now, I'm recording this video on Thursday. We'll see what the Mets' response is Friday. If they start making some moves. According to little Andy Martino of SNY, there are going to be other changes to the coaching staff. A lot of guys have been around here a long time. Jeremy Hefner has to go. He's been here too long, and he hasn't been nearly as successful as we're being told. And I've been complaining about him for 2-3 years. Well, anyway, so what's this video about? Well, it's funny I should mention that. It's about Francisco Lindor. Now, I've been very critical of him and his time with the New York Mets. Up until about last year, I was hammering him pretty good. I always said that he was a good guy. I always thought that his defense has been excellent. I feel like he should have won at least 3 Gold Gloves here with the Mets, and he didn't win any. Now, this year, he's played terrible defensively. He did not have a good year defensively. But he's a good guy. He is a player that has done a lot here. He's put up tremendous numbers, and he had a very strong September. He's a 30-30 man twice. He was second in the MVP voting last year. He's won 2 Silver Slugger Awards with the Mets. He has had a very good career here with the Mets. He's driven 90 runs here, over 90 runs 3 times in his career. Man, it's just incredible. Has hit 30 home runs 3 times in the last 3 years. He's scored over 100 runs the last 3 years. Tremendous numbers, but the Mets haven't won. But the thing is that it's more important to me who plays for them. The name on the front as opposed to the name on the back. Like, he has a good family. He comes from a very good family, apparently. So that's not the issue. It's not personal. It's business. So I've talked about the Mets doing this for a few years, but I think some people are coming around to it. The Mets need to look into shopping him this offseason. See what they could get for him in return. He's going to be making $34 million over the next 6 years. That's $204 million over the length of that contract. He's going to be 32 years old in November. Now, if the Mets had won a World Series over this 5 years, my attitude about him and about the ball club would be very different, obviously. If they got to the World Series last year, they had a very good shot to beat the Yankees last year. They were really good last year. But obviously the Dodgers were too strong. They beat up on the Mets pretty good. But they didn't win in these 5 years. And that's a long period of time to have a player here that you built your team around and you haven't won. Now, this club has a lot of problems, obviously. Now, one of the things that's popped up this year has been this thing about Juan Soto talking about the clubhouse and how Starling Marte is a leader in that clubhouse. Starling Marte is not going to be back next year, so that's something we have to keep in mind. And so Marte has been looked at as the leader of this team, but the media has told us that Lindor is the leader of this team. Well, which is it? And I listen to the player who's saying that. And it wasn't anything negative about Lindor. It was something positive about Marte. Marte is not an everyday player anymore. He's a role player at this point in his career, and he's an aging player. So you don't want a 37-year-old guy who's aging and is a leader. That doesn't work. Just like a pitcher is a leader, doesn't work either. Well, I'm going to say the Mets should look to trade him. I have a couple of ideas. Not what they can get in return, but a couple of teams I think would be could probably afford him. Now, he is a 5'10 player, meaning that he's played for the Mets for 5 years and he's been in the majors for 10. So he can veto any trade just based off of that. Just based off of that. And I'll give you a couple of names. One is the Dodgers. So the Dodgers have Mookie Betts, but Mookie's not a shortstop. I'm surprised they haven't brought in a shortstop. And he'd be another big ticket item for them. They have a good farm system. I would assume that Steve Cohen would eat a lot of the money. Because I think he said when it came to Verlander and Scherzer that it was already money that was spent when he traded those guys to Houston and to the Rangers. So that's one team that he could, and this could be for any team. He could just eat half the contract, and maybe these teams take $17 million a year, or he takes the front part of the contract and pays for that, and then these teams pay the back end. And I'm not going to get into what the Mets could get because this is I'm just brainstorming right now. And there needs to be a change. I mean, it might be a situation that he's too nice of a guy. He might be too nice of a guy. And you know that the saying, nice guys finish last. And that goes for anything in life. Anything in life, nice guys always finish last. Another team, which would be the Toronto Blue Jays. Blue Jays are going to lose their shortstop, Bo Bichette, who's going to be going somewhere. I can see him going to the Dodgers, right? The market for shortstops is not as good as it has been over the last few years. Last 5 years, the shortstop market's been just off the charts. But Bo Bichette will be the big shortstop on the market. I can see the Blue Jays. He's not signing back with the Blue Jays. He's not staying. So, in my opinion, I think that's another place that would be good for Lindor to go is Toronto. And again, the Mets would have to eat the money, a big portion of that contract. But he would have to waive his no-trade clause that he has. I think he has a no-trade clause in the contract, too. But it'd just be more of a 5-10 thing, I think. I think that kind of supersedes everything. But, look, I mean, I like the guy, but you have to sort of be honest about where this team is at. He's going to be 32 years old in another month and a half. Okay, he's like getting close to the end of his prime. And I thought that last year that he had a career year, but he had a good year this year. He finished up very, very strong. And he plays a lot. He posts. Whenever he's hurt, he stays out there. Other than the first year where he got hurt, after the All-Star break, he plays all the time. He plays every single day. And that's, obviously, that's an admirable, fighting this nasty cold that I have. But this is a team that needs to change the personality of the players in the clubhouse. There's no sense of urgency. You don't see it on the field right now. And that's a big reason why the Mets went home. That's why the Reds got swept in that 3-game series to the Dodgers. The sense of urgency wasn't there. And you can't keep blaming the manager because this would be the third manager the Mets would be running through. We had Luis Rojas here. We also had Mickey Callaway. Remember Mickey? He's always texting those women, ding, texting those women to try to get a date instead of getting the lineup right. He script the lineup that time, back in 2019. But you have got, then of course, Buck Showalter and now Mendoza. How many managers is this group going to go through? And like I said at the beginning of this video, the Mets have to change the coaching staff, and they have to make some changes. I'll talk about Brandon Nimmo in some future video, I would think. But I think Lindor is something you have to consider. And there's nothing wrong with talking about it. We can talk about it here, So, leave comments in the comments section. This is not being nasty. It's not being mean. It's just looking at it very honestly and practical. And I don't want to hear people say, well, they're not going to, who's going to trade for him? He's making all this money. Steve Cohen will spend the money to get rid of a player. Now, I would say this before I forget. He's very close with the family. Okay, he's very close with Alex Cohen, Steve Cohen's wife, and she's co-owner of this team. So that's a consideration as well. Would they be willing to part ways with somebody that they care about and they like? He's the first big acquisition of this ownership group, and it hasn't worked in the first 5 years. And he's going to be aging the next year or so. So those things have to be considered when we move forward. All right? You can't just say, well, they're not going to trade him. That's it. No, you got to look at it very honestly about the player. How many more years does he have left? And with this, and I would say the Mets are going to be good next year. I expect that to happen. I expect the Mets to be very good next year. I expect them to be competitive. And I expect them to have a better attitude and a better personality on the field. That's what I think. Because I don't think they're going to put up with that kind of nonsense again. Well, you let me know what you think about this video and what would you want to do. And that's it. Yes or no, whatever, and what your ideas are for what teams would be interested in him. I got two here, the Blue Jays and the Dodgers have holes that they probably could fill with him. And there's nothing wrong with him, believe me, as a player. You make your team so much better. But like I said, he's getting older in terms of what the Mets are looking for. So thank you for watching. Have a good day. And of course, it's the dark cut. We talk about dark things here. And it might be not the most positive stuff, but we got to talk about it. Hi, everybody. This is the Baseball Head, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the People's Champion. Your host, and welcome back to the Baseball Head 2. And hopefully you like this video and hit that subscribe button. So I'm going to go through a list of players. And I went through this list the other day on my own. And I'm going to reveal it. And it's a lot of players that are going to be free agents. I'm going to tell you what the teams that are going to be rumored. This is very early. We're still in the playoffs, just the beginning of the playoffs. And we're going to go through this list. And it's all written out for myself to go through. And it's a lot of names, a lot of trade candidates, very much a Mets-centric kind of list. Last year was Mets-centric because the top player on last year's free agent market went to the Mets. That's Juan Soto. And this is a list that is the pitching market on this, with this list is much stronger than it was last year. We have better pitchers, better starting pitchers on this list than they had last year. Last year they had a lot of guys at the high end, but they got hurt. They've had sort of histories of being injured, particularly Blake Snell. And of course, everyone knows about Corbin Burns getting hurt. But there is quite an interesting list of players on my list. And this is just the beginning of the off. We haven't even gotten to the offseason yet, but this is as you know, last day of the season, which is after the final game of the World Series. Players will declare their free agency and become free agents. Very different than years ago. But here we go. First up, Kyle Tucker, playing with the Cubs. We got a list of teams here. The Cubs, the Yankees, the Mets, the Mariners, the Dodgers, and San Francisco. Pete Alonso. I think that he'll probably stay with the Mets because really they're going to need somebody to be in the middle of this lineup. Even though this team needs to make changes, they'll make changes probably elsewhere. And the market is not very good. So he's going to get a better contract than he did last year. And he had an MVP type year, to be honest with you. Next on the list, Edwin Diaz. I don't have a list of teams with him because I think he's going to sign with the Mets. I think he'll get the free agency. Unlike the last time he didn't reach free agency, he signed with the Mets before free agency began. But I believe he will hit the market, but I think he'll come back. Dylan Cease, Zach Gallen, Framber Valdez. All three guys here should be connected to the Mets, as well as Framber Valdez Framber Valdez will have the Yankees on him too. We'll get a whole bunch of teams, probably the Dodgers and a whole bunch of teams. Seattle, the Blue Jays. Let me put that down. So Seattle and the Blue Jays could be other teams as I brainstorm as we do this video. But Bo Bichette, we haven't heard much about him. They haven't had their playoff run yet. But I would put the Mets on this. I know you're going to say, and the Dodgers. Cody Bellinger. There's a lot of talk the Mets were going to sign him last year. Keep an eye on him. I mean, they were going to trade for him last year. Keep an eye on him. Ranger Suarez, I don't have a team attached to him. Kyle Schwarber. Better than 50-50 chance he signs with the Phillies. But the Mets should make a move on him. The Yankees should make a move on him. The Cubs could certainly use his bat in their lineup. I'll put the Tigers there as well. This is a guy that lives the postseason. Probably a future Hall of Famer and one of the big power hitters in the game. Keep an eye on him where he goes next this offseason, especially after the Phillies season ends. Muntaki, let me get this name right. Muntaka Murakami. He is basically the Babe Ruth of Japan. He broke the all-time home run record in Japan a few years ago. And he's a second baseman, first baseman. I've heard the Mets, the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Phillies. I'll put the Mariners there. Why not? Because they all like those Japanese players. But that is a guy, and he's a big power hitter. He has not been healthy in Japan this year. He's been sort of kind of injured a little bit. But that's a guy who's probably going to hit the market if he gets posted. And I believe he'll get posted. This is not like a free agency. And I believe he's 25, 26 years old. So he's not even his prime yet. Francisco Lindor. I know what you're saying. Why would the Mets trade him? Well, the way they finished their season, their collapse, they should consider doing that. And I have one team attached to him because I think it makes sense, is the Dodgers. Maybe the Mets eat some of that money. But we'll see. That is something that the Mets should explore. It probably won't happen, but they need to explore it to see if they can improve this team. Up next, Jeff McNeil. Jeff McNeil is going to get moved. I will put Seattle there on this list of teams because the fact of the matter is they've always liked McNeil. So that's a team you can keep an eye on with Jeff McNeil. And McNeil, I think, will be the guy of all the players that the Mets have in that clubhouse. One of the veteran players that's been here a long time, he'll be the one that will definitely go. He's going to go. He's going to get traded. There's no doubt in my mind. Next up, Brandon Nimmo. I didn't have a team till just now. We had the Toronto Blue Jays. They liked him a few years ago. Mets should shop him as well to change the personality of this team. He's a great guy, great American story, but they need to look elsewhere. David Peterson. He's got 1 year left on his contract. Is he a guy you want to sign long term? If he has a big full season next year, you want to sign him to a 5-year deal? I wouldn't do that. He's been very inconsistent in his career, unless the Mets, of course, bring in a new pitching coach. Next up, Sandy Alcantara. Now the Marlins had a good year. Obviously, I guess they won 79 games. They beat the Mets. They might not be willing to move Alcantara, but he doesn't make a lot of money. There can be tons of teams on him. The Mets, the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Mariners. I mean, all the teams that have very good farm system. The Cubs. Those are guys to keep an eye on. Joe Ryan, I understand the former general manager of the New York Mets, Jim Duquette, mentioned Joe Ryan. Maybe the Mets there. Maybe Logan Gilbert with the Mets. Those would be trades. Merrill Kelly is a free agent, I believe, he's with Toronto. Now we're going to run through a bunch of names here for you that don't have any teams attached. Although Alex Bregman has Boston, I would put the Mets on that list because the Mets could use a third base, and they have to figure out what they want to do with Brett Baty and the other infielders they have. We have Chris Bassett. We'll see where he goes. Mike Conforto. Michael, you should have taken that deal with the Mets before 2021. Basically, his career is all screwed up. It's not the player that he was, but he's going to be a free agent. Lucas Giolito, Trent Grissom. The Mets will be attached to him, but I wouldn't touch him. He had a career year with the Yankees. Rhys Hoskins, I don't really particularly like him for the Mets. He'll sign someplace, maybe go back to Philly, who knows. Michael Kay has been injured most of the season. Nick Martinez, Emilio Pagan. We'll see where he goes. Maybe he signs with a team. Jorge Polanco. Catcher J.D. Realmuto. He signed a big contract a few years ago. Maybe he returns to the Phillies, but we'll keep an eye on that. He's a player now that he's on the other side of his prime, and he has not been playing as much as he had the last few years. Robert Suarez will be a free agent. He will go because they'll put Mason Miller there in San Diego. Gleyber Torres. I'll put Detroit. Maybe they re-sign him. He had a one-year deal with them. Eugenio Suarez. I'll get his name straight. He's a big third baseman. I don't have a team attached to him yet, but I'm sure the teams will pop up. I don't think the Mets will be there. Josh Naylor. He had a good year for the Diamondbacks, but interesting to see where he goes. Luis Ariz. This is with the Padres. We'll see where he goes. He'll probably be on a new team next year. He gets a lot of base hits. He's got no power. He's not a very good base runner. Not fast. He is a guy that doesn't really offer a lot other than high batting average. But he's Tony Gwynn. Brandon Woodruff. He's going to be a free agent, but I believe he will stay in Milwaukee for next year. And finally on this list is a player that had played really poorly and was injured a lot for Boston. That's Trevor Story. He's a guy that has been sort of a missing player, and I would think that he's had a good year. Be interesting to see how he, what kind of attention he'll get in the offseason if we get any kind of offers. But I can see the Dodgers. I mean, the Dodgers don't need to do a whole hell of a lot of things. The big thing the Dodgers have to do is improve that pitching for next season. But that's a guy to keep an eye on as well for the Dodgers. But this is an early version, a very early off-season list for you as we are in the postseason. And of course, I'll run through these teams and these players again, and there'll be more teams attached to these players as I get more information. And of course, then there's all information I get online, and just sort of my own thoughts on it too. So, thank you for watching this video. Of course, please subscribe to the Baseball Hut 2. The Dark Hut off-season has begun. Hi everybody, this is the Baseball Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the people's champion. Your host, and welcome back to the Baseball Hut 2, and hopefully you like this video and hit that subscribe button. I'm a little under the weather, so that's why there was no videos really the last day or two. But I'm going to post this video, and I'm trying to do some other things here. My voice is not strong, and I'm not feeling that great, but we'll see how I handle it. But as you know, the Mets did not go to the postseason. They collapsed. I still have videos to talk about with them, but I like on this channel, we like to do different angles here and talk about the broadcasters and no more amusing broadcaster, and just in terms of his just daily anger and just bad attitude every day. He's Michael not okay. He's not okay. He's still mad that Met fans are making fun of him during the summer, and I guess he spiked the football on Monday after the Mets lost. Let me read you from Awful Announcing. Michael rejoices at misery of Mets fans. Quote, "You try to make my life a living hell." Quote, "You deserve it the way you tried to make my life a living hell by all those Juan Soto tweets." Hey, you can mute people, jackass. Don't feel, Michael Kay feels bad for the friends who are Mets fans, but for the rest of you derisive, nasty creeps, he feels glee. I don't know if I tweeted to him, but I love doing videos on him because he is angry, and everybody around him is angry too. I used to see how he used to fight with everybody that he worked with, Don LaGreca and the other guy, and that's the most amusing thing about him, is that he's so angry. But other than that, there's nothing really interesting about him. Other than that, he's been around. But anyway, the New York Mets season ended Sunday afternoon, far sooner than anybody expected it would, after reaching Game 6 of the NLCS last year. The Mets had Juan Soto in the offseason, still managed to miss the playoffs. On the morning of June 13th, Mets woke up with the best record in Major League Baseball before embarking on what would be an historic collapse. Now, they were 21 games over 500. And the Mets finished with the third worst record after being 21 games over 500. The other two were the 1905 Naps, they were under 500, and the 1975 Cubs were finished at 500. And on the morning of September 29th, Michael Kay woke up and chose to dance on the grave. I got a lot of Mets fans, friends that are Mets fans. They're devastated today, Kay said on his ESPN New York radio show. And those are the people I genuinely feel for. It sounds like it. I really feel for them. People I don't feel for, the people that made me think that it might be fun today to come on at 1 o'clock and just giggle for 2 hours. You know who you are. Now, I would mention, you used to have a 3 o'clock show. You're the creeps that couldn't let good enough be. You're the ones. We're the big brother now. This whole nonsense, this big brother, little brother is not nonsense. It's all Yankee bullshit. All Yankee bullshit. You're the ones who kept sending those tweets out to me. Oh, Juan Soto looks happy now. How dumb do you feel? How chagrined are you? Are you embarrassed? Well, not really. I have no, I have no effect on the games. I'm not superstitious, and I'm not in that clubhouse. I don't even work for the team, so I shouldn't be that embarrassed. It's just annoying as we go on. Michael Kay has officially taken the expectation that half the audience is going to love you and half is going to hate you to a new extreme. Imagine being so triggered at the thought of fans claiming the Mets were the big brother after signing Soto away from the Yankees. You signed the best free agent available in a long time, one of the best players ever to become a free agent, just a smidge behind Alex when A-Rod became a free agent at 26. That's how valuable Juan Soto is. And you still fell flat on your face. Kay continued. Well, I didn't. Every Met fan out there, I feel for you. I do. I don't rejoice in your pain at all. No, not at all. But it's that vicious, angry subset of Mets fans that weren't hugged by their parents, who didn't have any love in their family, and they just loved to pass along hate. This is so stupid. This is breaking balls, jerk off. He doesn't know about breaking balls. Breaking balls till somebody cries. I'd love to see that. That'd be great to see Michael Kay do a show and cry on the air. He looks like a guy that cries a lot. I think so. Derisive, nasty, those I don't feel sorry for. I'm going to tell you a little secret. I feel glee about your pain today, because you deserve it. The way you try to make my life a living hell by those Juan Soto tweets. You said that Soto wasn't happy here with the Mets, that he wanted to sign with the Yankees, but he signed with the Mets anyway. Oh, he looks like a guy that will cry. He will cry. But he's the type of guy that would cry over like a little thing. Like, he wouldn't be the kind of guy that would cry at a funeral. Or if somebody died, he doesn't look like that type. He looks like the type that would cry over something like this, and this is proof of it. Not the Juan Soto tweets. There may be no worse attempt at a woe is me situation than Kay seeking empathy. But Juan Soto tweets from Mets fans. I mean, what a loser. I mean, really. After signing a record-setting $765 million, Soto got off to a slow start for the Mets this season, before finishing with some of the best numbers of his career. And amid that slow start, Kay reported Soto was very, very glum around the clubhouse. A report like that should come with the expectation that Mets fans are going to poke Kay every time Soto smiles after hitting a home run. Gotta remember something. The Yankees were not happy that he signed with the Mets, because this had never happened before. And even the Yankees posted stuff about the Mets when the Mets did not get in the postseason. They made a big deal out of it a couple of days ago. I mean, this is really, a lot of this is coming from the Yankee front office. He's worked for the Yankees, been in the Yankee organization for 35 years. This is coming from the top, probably from Randy Levine, when he went after Soto. Because they made up the story that he wasn't happy. He really wanted to sign with the Yankees, but he signed with the Mets. He really wanted to stay. Okay, he signed with the Mets, doesn't matter. A few Mets fans who attempted to disprove any reports of Soto being glum by sending Kay pictures of the $765 million out for the smile, and the voice of the Yankees wants you to know he's celebrating your pain. Just think about this. What's wrong with this guy? This is the same Michael Kay who will attempt to tell you he calls Yankee games without bias when he gets back in the booth for the Yankees. I mean, really. He's also the same guy that complained and cried about the fact that he didn't he wasn't able to call the first game of the season this year. He couldn't broadcast. He complained about it, because they weren't on TV. It's like the first time I've never done a game in 35 years. I was like, who cares? Asshole, who cares? You're announcing a big team. What the hell is your problem? He's a very unhappy guy. He comes across as very unhappy. Especially when he interacts with people online. And even on the radio, so, And you wouldn't know it. The guy's got a great job, but it doesn't seem like he's all that happy. You tell me the guy's not happy. Certainly not okay. That's for sure. But if the Yankees lose, folks, spike that football, or spike that baseball, whatever you want to call it. But Michael, not okay. He's an amusing, angry guy. There's nothing funnier than an angry guy. Remember, you watch Seinfeld. Remember how Frank Costanza would get so angry, and it would be so funny. I mean, this is kind of how I look at it with Michael Kay. He complains, he's angry, he's pissed off all the time. It's just wonderful, And he complained about tweets. I mean, just think about that. How petty is that? Who cares? Just ignore it. Most people at his level, first of all, most broadcasters aren't on X, but he is. So what does he expect? That people are going to react to the things he says, like I'm doing this video here now. What does he expect? But again, he's not okay. You might be okay. He's not okay. Well, you let me know what you think about this video, and hopefully you guys feel better the next day or two. And thanks for watching. Please subscribe to Baseball Hut 2, and I'll see you later. Hi, everybody. This is the Baseball Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the People's Champion. Your host, the Hut, and welcome back to the Baseball Hut. And hopefully you like this video. I'm a little under the weather, so you can tell by the way I sound. I've been sort of dealing with an illness here the last couple of days. Hope it'll clear up soon on medication, so hopefully that'll help. But Hose is still reeling from the Mets' collapse. I think we all are. It's very difficult to watch these playoff games. To record this video, the Reds are playing the Dodgers. It pisses me off because I warned so many people online that if the Mets did not play better, that the team they had to watch out for was the Reds. And sure enough, I should have put out some lotto numbers too. Got that right, my goodness. But we got different viewpoints. I don't know if I necessarily agree with this. This is from former major leaguer, former MVP, former New York Met, Mo Vaughn. I guess he kind of does these podcasts, I guess. Sort of a guest on some of these things, or he has one. The one thing I got to deal with is these people, these industry people with their podcasts. So that's why you need to subscribe to this channel. I'm an independent person. And, of course, I'm just doing my thing, on my own. The first Met podcast, the first Met YouTuber, as far as I know. But here we have an article. And I tried to find the audio to this, and I couldn't find it. This is from Fox News. Ex-MLB star Mo Vaughn pinpoints why Mets collapsed and missed postseason. Now, a lot of times I don't read this beforehand. But I read this because, obviously I'm not feeling well, so I had time to read it. And he had some interesting things to say. Again, I don't necessarily believe this, but let me read the article. Mets were at one point 45-24, had the best record in baseball, but ended the season at 83-79 and missed the postseason. One-time American League MVP Mo Vaughn talked with Fox News Digital about the Mets' collapse and where it went wrong. Vaughn discussed how the team's National League Championship Series run in 2024 may have played a factor. Now, as you know, Vaughn played for the Mets, but he was pretty much done. He had a bad back. They never should have brought him in here. But he was a good player with the Red Sox. He was really good with the Red Sox. And then he signed a contract, I think, with the Angels. And he and a few other players ousted Terry Collins back in the day. They had a mutiny on the team. But that's an aside. That doesn't mean anything about this here. But they went all the way to the League Championship Series last year. They knew how to do that. They knew how to get there. And what happens is that you spend a lot of energy getting to that point. Now you're reset. You got another season, but you're not as sharp. One told Fox News Digital. quote, you're not as on point, you're not as particular because it just takes that concentration. You know, if you have that opportunity to get there, you're going to turn it on. And that's what I felt about the Mets. Now, I will say this, and I've talked about this a lot for the last few years, is that this group has had this problem before. To where they have these really strong runs. I mean, they were great in 2021 or 2022, and they played terrible in 23. They played really well from June on in 2024. And then it just didn't, and then after June this year, they just sort of fizzled. So this has been a sort of a long-term issue with this particular group of New York Mets. So I disagree with him to a degree. They just have to reconvene, reconfigure their brains, one said. And it's not that you're talking, and it's not like you're not taking it seriously. I want fans to understand. It's not like anybody was lollygagging or anybody was not playing harder. It just needed that fine-tuned concentration. Get yourself to the playoffs. That I agree with. They certainly were distracted. One said the Mets will have a new mentality going into spring training next season. But I think now what's going to happen is they're going to go back to spring training, and they've had that year where they didn't make it. They're going to be thinking about the year that they did make it, and now they're going to go about the business of everything matters. One said, when everything matters, that's when you get the best baseball that's played. But they'll learn it. They'll get there. They're too talented. They got too many guys. They got too many guys that know how to play. One also praised Juan Soto for having an awesome first season with the Mets. There's a lot of hype of being the highest paid player. You got that whole Yankee Mets. Why did he go? Where did he go? Did he stay? He should have stayed. Blah, blah. That's just that. Man, everybody kick back. Let this guy do his work. Exactly. One mentioned how it might have taken some time for Soto to adjust at the beginning of the year. You're kind of like you're like in a little fog. You're not sure where you are. But once he got his feet on the ground, he was the best guy out there. So he came out and it was 40 home runs, 30 stolen bases, 100 walks, 100 RBIs, and 160 games. Soto had a 283 batting average. That was 263. With 43 homers, 105 RBIs, 38 stolen bases, which led the National League. Wow. I saw that statistic. I couldn't believe it. He led the National League in stolen bases? Holy shit. Wow. I didn't realize that. I saw that on Baseball Reference. He led the National League in stolen bases? And it's that low? With the big bases? Wow. Soto's on-base percentage of .396 also led the National League. Wow. I didn't realize that. I thought it was reading things. Unfortunately for the Mets, it wasn't enough to propel them to the postseason. One played in the major leagues for 12 seasons. He spent 8 with the Boston Red Sox, 2 with the then Anaheim Angels, and 2 with the Mets. Three-time All-Star had a .293 batting average with 328 home runs and 1,064 RBIs. He has a podcast called the Mobile One Podcast. Oh, isn't that original? Which debuted in August. He's interviewed former MLB Commissioner Bud Selig, 6-time All-Star Kenny Lofton, and many other former players. Now, again, I mentioned this is a monster I deal with. All these former players that have the ability to communicate well. Some players don't communicate well, but there are some players that you want to hear and listen to. That's why you need to subscribe to the Baseball Hut, because for many, many reasons. Like I said, I'm just an independent person doing my thing. But, yeah, I mean, I kind of disagree with some of the first part I disagree with him about. This has been a long-term, problem here, all right, for many years. So that's the one thing I would disagree with him about. He might not be aware of that. Now, the Mets have to make certain moves now to change things. One of the things they need to do is they need a big starting pitcher in here to anchor this staff. Okay, they can't piecemeal it now. There are some big pitchers that are going to be on the market. Framber Valdez is at the top of that list. Some guys that they could probably trade for, guys like Sandy Alcantara. So there are people out there the Mets could really bring in here that could help this rotation out. This rotation needs a lot of help. That's one of the things they need to do. And they need to divest some of these everyday players to a certain degree. See what kind of trade market is out there for Francisco Lindor. What kind of trade market's out there for Brandon Nimmo. Look to see if you want to trade David Peterson in particular, because he is a free agent, I believe, after next season. Do you want to sign him to a long-term deal? And he's going to be 30 years old this year. What are you going to do with Pete Alonso? Are you going to bring him back? Who's going to replace Pete at first base? What are you going to do behind the plate? Mets don't have a center fielder long-term, as far as I can see. Right now, that could be ready for the major leagues. Is Carson Bench going to be ready next year? I don't know. He played in AAA this year, and he, in the last few weeks of the season, kind of struggled a little bit. But these are the kind of players, these are the kind of moves the Mets have to consider. Also, I mentioned Glenn Sherlock retired from the Mets, and as you know, Glenn Sherlock was in the major leagues as a coach for a long time, and he was the Mets catching coach for a long time, last few years. I would hope that the next move the Mets make is getting rid of Jeremy Hefner as pitching coach. They have to. He's been here 5 years. He has lasted many managers, and of course, he's lasted ownerships. So he has to go. And there are going to be some other moves. From what I understand, little Andy Martino from SNY said the Mets were going to make a lot of moves with the coaching staff, and they need to. And bring in big people. I think bringing in Willie Randolph and Carlos Beltran onto the staff will really give this manager a little bit of help in terms of gravitas in the clubhouse. And I also would think that it gives the Mets an out in case there's a problem going into next season and they get off to a slow start. If you get off to a slow start, you can ask Willie, we need somebody. Can you manage this team this year? And Willie would be more than happy. He would love to come back, I think. Would love to be the manager of the Mets again, to prove himself again. Everybody wants to prove themselves. And of course, Beltran is there. Thank God the Mets have Beltran in the organization still. But those are the kind of players the Mets, the kind of moves they need to make, the kind of men they need in this. Hopefully, to do that. It was a great idea by Evan Roberts. The Mets should seriously consider that, especially if they get rid of most of the staff. A lot of these are holdovers from Buck Showalter anyway, and Mickey Callaway too. Or Mickey Callaway, Luis Rojas, and even Beltran, So Mets got to do something smart here and just do an overhaul of everything. After 2007, they didn't do that. They just brought in Santana, and it just didn't work. They had the same kind of mix with the position players. They can't be like married to these guys, especially if there's a problem in the clubhouse. So, thank you for watching this video. And of course, we got memberships here. Please send me a great super thanks, and please, of course, wish me well because I don't feel well. Let me get the hell out of here, and I'll see you later.